The federal government is hoping Australia's construction sector can build 1.2 million homes over the next 5 years. That equates to about 240,000 dwellings each year. On Wednesday, the Bureau of Statistics released the building approvals numbers for May, which showed that over the past 12 months, our economy approved just 164,000 homes for construction, which is woefully below the government's targets. Let's bring in here Anne Flaherty, economist at REA Group. Anne, thanks for your time. Look, first up, do you think 1.2 million homes in 5 years is even achievable?
Look, none of the developers that I have come into contact with think this is achievable. And if we look at Australia's own record, we have never delivered 240,000 homes in a single year in history. And to make matters worse, if we look at approvals, as you mentioned, they are well below the level that they need to be. And of course, we know that approvals are our best case scenario for how many homes that get built, because just because a home is approved does not mean that it's going to get underway.
Yeah, one of the stats that really jumped out at me was it seems like there's been a real fall in the number of apartments that have been approved over the past 12 months. And you'd really believe that apartments are really the way to go here to build up Australia's housing supply quickly.
That's exactly right. If we look at the year-on-year shortfall in dwelling approvals, it's down about 31.5% for units. Now, what this means is that it's that lower-priced, more affordable stock that's not being built as much. Yes, we are still seeing development of more premium units, your house and land. These tend to be more feasible in the current market. But the reality is that building costs are still incredibly high. And so unless a dwelling is meeting a certain price threshold, often developers can't actually justify building these at the moment.
Now, you've crunched some numbers looking at housing construction versus population growth in the calendar year 2023. Now, did construction keep up with population growth at all?
Oh, not even close. So we only saw about 2/3 of the homes that needed to be built constructed. So if we think of an average household size as being about 2.5 people, we had a shortfall last year of about 90,000 homes. And what's worse is that in some states, such as WA, we didn't even see half the number of homes built that needed to be to accommodate population growth.
Yeah, you mentioned WA. Now, that's a state where we've seen really high increases in property prices over the past couple of years. Now, is that directly linked to a massive lack of supply and construction?
It's directly linked, and it's not just property prices that have skyrocketed across WA, it's also rents. So we know that over the past year, rents in WA increased by about 18% in that Greater Perth region, which is well in excess of anything we saw in any other market, and it's well above what you would consider a healthy, sustainable rental growth rate.
And then I guess on the flip side, if construction outpaces population, does that actually result in rents and property prices falling? Have you seen that anywhere around Australia?
Yes, we have, not in many places. The two exceptions that are seeing more homes built than population growth are the ACT and also Tasmania. So those are actually markets where we've even seen rents decline over the past quarter, and we haven't seen the level of property price growth that we've seen around the rest of the country. Now, I think it's really important to sort of look at this and say, okay, so those locations where we are building enough homes, we're not seeing the crazy rent growth. We're not seeing property prices rising unsustainably. So I think it's just more evidence of this dire need for more housing.
And I guess the big challenge here is a lot of construction businesses have really struggled for the past few years. Do you think they're still lacking in confidence to get out there and start building again?
Well, the reality is that a lot of the issues that were plaguing the construction sector over the past few years are still there. So building material costs are still incredibly elevated. Timelines are still really, long, and we're still seeing labour shortages. What this means is that, until a lot of these issues are overcome, it's going to be very difficult for us to actually build the number of new homes that we need to come even close to the government's hoped for 1.2 million.
And then we've also got, at the same time, there's now a chance of a rate rise coming up in August. I think the market's got 33% chance of a rate increase from the Reserve Bank. If rates were to potentially go up, would that just dent confidence again for the construction sector and make them more hesitant to build homes?
Yeah, look, higher interest rates do increase development costs. They also increase land holding costs, things like that. So I think that if we were to see another interest rate rise, it's not a good sign for the development of more homes. And then, of course, it's going to be really hard for a lot of households out there who are already incredibly constrained in their budgets, who are already forking out so much of their take-home income into just meeting those mortgage repayments. So I think that if we were to see another interest rate rise, that's going to really, really be a big blow to the housing sector.
And just quickly, this week, REA Group put out its monthly house price numbers for the month of June. What happened briefly just across Australia during June for property prices?
So we did see some mixed results over June. We saw certain markets, WA, for example, where we saw prices grow, but then there were other markets that are a bit more subdued. So Melbourne is an example of a city where prices have really been in the doldrums over the past few years actually. They still haven't returned to those peak levels. But then if we look at other markets around Australia, like Sydney, properties are sitting at new peaks. Perth and Adelaide, same story, new peaks. So it really is a bit of a mix across the board.
Anne Flaherty from REA Group, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.